So I'm leading a 19-member delegation, and a very interesting mix actually. I've got government officials and I've got people from the financial sector as well. So to be a little bit more specific, Bhutan is administratively divided into 20 districts. So I've got the district governors from 6 districts in Bhutan, and each of them responsible for bringing economic development, looking after the welfare, administration of their respective districts. And each governor is also accompanied by one officer. Then in addition, I have people from the insurance sector in Bhutan, as well as one from the Development Bank of Bhutan. And of course, I'm from the central bank and I have 2 officers with me. So the reason we are all here in Sri Lanka is really to learn from Sanasa. And it's very much related to this program that the central bank initiated about 2 years back in 2018. It's called the Priority Sector Lending, and the platform, the initiative, the Priority Sector Lending, is really about how we can boost the livelihoods of our farmers, of our youth, and bring development in rural, especially in the rural areas of Bhutan. But unlike in the region, this program, the Priority Sector Lending program, is not something where the central bank is mandating our banks to lend a certain percentage of their portfolios. It's nothing like that. Instead, it's really about partnership. So it's about providing a platform of partnership between the financial sector and the government and the local government. And we of course play a big role as a facilitator and of course the regulator. But I think this program has been very instrumental in really bringing together these multiple stakeholders that are there when you talk about economic development, when you're talking about rural livelihoods. There's so many actors involved, and then coordination then I think becomes a big factor. So this Priority Sector Lending has provided exactly that platform. Now that said, capacity becomes very important. Capacity building becomes very important because it's not only enough for our districts to be given a responsibility to do this sort of work, and the banks themselves, actually our banks themselves also have had no experience, not much experience lending to our farmers, so their capacity is important. Insurance was a very new thing for us, so capacity building in insurance was really important. And so that's why we are here to see what we could possibly take away from Sanasa and adapt to Bhutan. So the story goes back to 2017. So I must be honest, actually we had never heard of Sanasa. So in 2017, the central bank, we organized this very big international conference on financial inclusion, and we worked very closely with the IFC, and they were actually instrumental in identifying who the right resources would be from the region, from around the globe, and they were the ones actually who introduced Sanasa to us. So through them we reached out to Sanasa, and we had Samadani, chairperson of the Sanasa Development Bank, STBL Bank, who actually came to Bhutan in 2017 for that conference, and we were very inspired actually to listen to her story, share her story about Sanasa. And then a few months later, the central bank governor actually came to Sri Lanka. He had another program, but he spent one day interacting again with Sanasa. And then how did the relationship deepen? And of course, when Samadani was in Bhutan, she shared the story about her father, because the story of Sanasa is, of course, cannot be told without the story of the founder, Dr. Kiri. And we were very inspired to hear about Dr. Kiri's story. And then of course the governor, when he came to Sri Lanka in 2017, he had the opportunity to meet Dr. Kiri. And then we invited Dr. Kiri to Bhutan, and he also visited Bhutan. So that's how really it deepened. And as we were doing capacity building for our government and officials and our financial institutions, we had tied up with Thailand. So we have sent a cohort or 2 to Thailand, but for the third and final cohort, we wanted to come to Sri Lanka because we wanted to learn more about Sanasa, and also very particularly we wanted to look at the insurance also, because as I said earlier, insurance is very new to us, whereas here in Sanasa I think there's a lot of innovation, actually, a lot of things being done on that insurance front. So that's why Sanasa. I think a lot of us have, from my delegation, a lot of us had already visited Sri Lanka before, but that visit was really confined to Colombo. So most of us had come to Colombo. A few had, I think, ventured beyond and gone to Kandy, because we are all Buddhist. So the opportunity to, I think, seek blessings from the tooth relic was also something that you always make sure that you do. For me, I mean, this is very embarrassing. My last visit to Sri Lanka, I think I did not step out of the hotel room in Colombo because we were so busy with the work. So I think, I mean, that was it, you know. When you, those interactions really limited, I think, what you expected out of the country. I mean, we knew that it's a largely Buddhist country. We share a lot of cultural physically we're very different, but culturally we share a lot of similarities, and Buddhism, tea, of course. So that was it. But what was really different and special, I think, about this trip this time was going out of Colombo and really spending people and getting to see the country. And you know, I mean, when you talk about Sanasa, when you talk about the cooperative movement, okay, we've read about it, we heard Samadhani talk about it, we also heard Dr. Kiri, but it was still very abstract, you know. And then to be able to come here and put the human faces behind it, to pass by the temple where this whole thing started, I mean, so that I think the connection was, I think it really brings alive what this whole thing was about. So I mean, this has been an amazing trip. We were here for 5 days, 4 of which we spent in Tshogyel. That itself was quite refreshing. We were literally in the jungle, because I believe Sanasa Education Campus is a green campus, and we saw that firsthand. Then we visited the place Nikaveratina, and we met with the union there. Then we also visited 2 of the thrift societies there, and then got to know the people behind it. So this was amazing. We've learned many things. The delegation, I personally have learned so many things, and we are taking back a lot of things. Of course, we were very fortunate to spend quite a bit of time with the founder, with Dr. Kiri as well. On the first day, we had a very nice session with Dr. Kiri, and I think what really came across was the values, I think, the values behind it. So I take this away, that development needs a human touch, development needs a cultural touch, and something that we don't really, I think, have in Bhutan is, I mean, what the cooperative, what Sanasa was all about. It was about people coming together to address their own problems, to identify and address their own problems. And that is so important if you want, because that ensures ownership, and most importantly, it ensures sustainability. But again, that does not happen on its own, right? So this is where that vision and that leadership was so crucial, and this is what Dr. Kiri, I think, had provided. I mean, man, way ahead of his time. I mean, I had the chance to meet Samadhani's daughter and niece. So I was sharing with them that today we see the success, you know, we see what Sanasa is, all the various companies, but we should never forget how it started, 1970s, and why. I mean, over time, the organizations, the institutions, you have to evolve. With change, you have to evolve. But I think we should never forget the core, the values and the vision and the objective with which all of this was started. So this was, I think, amazing for Dr. Kiri to be still so involved, and for his children now, I think, and his grandchildren to be so involved in this big movement. So this was amazing. Then another thing another thing that that I take away is that, I mean, this whole thing, and this is again, I think it was I don't remember whether it was Samadani or Dr. Kiri who shared that this whole movement was about empowerment. It was not about freebies. It was not about handouts, no? Because that's very dangerous, I think. When you give handouts, I mean, then it's not sustainable. So this I think was important. Then on the insurance, as I mentioned earlier, in Bhutan, insurance was very new, and in fact, before we started the priority sector lending, the two insurance companies had only cattle insurance, and that was it. And with the priority sector lending, we introduced crop insurance for the first time. They widened their coverage of livestock, the insurance. So very new. We only have 2 years experience in insurance, and now we really need to take insurance to the next level. And this is where Sanasa is a pioneer. I mean, the weather index insurance, this is something fascinating, and this is something that we would like to learn more about. Obviously, sometimes the context is different, and then we need to go back and ask ourselves what are our major products and what are the risks that are facing these products. But the model is here in Sanasa, so it's just a matter of tweaking and adapting the model. So this is something that we are very interested. And another thing that we are very much interested in is the value chain financing that has been started by Sanasa. So this is, I think, this is I mean, really important. Often, even in Bhutan, the biggest challenge is cited as access to finance for the producer, but we forget that there's a whole ecosystem around it. There's so many actors around it that need the support. So this is, I think, another place, another area where Sanasa is pioneering some great things there, and we are very keen actually to learn a little bit more. We are also trying to do something similar, but it's at a very conceptual stage right now. So I think this is also some place where an area where we could, I think, learn from each other. We always believe in the central bank, the governor, all of us, that there are no accidental meetings. Yeah, there are no accidental meetings. It's always destiny, I think, that you make the connections. That's one. The second is that if your heart is in the right place, and if you're really out there working for the benefit of your fellow citizens, you make all the right connections. And I think this is what happened when we met with Sanasa as well. But that said, we must take maximum value out of it. So we meet, but now what next? What next? I think this is exactly your question. So I mean, if you look at our story also, 2017 we had Samadani visit Bhutan, then we had our governor visit Sanasa, followed by the founder visiting, and here we are now, 19 of us. So I think the engagement has just deepened. And based on this visit, we do want to follow up and collaborate on quite a few things. One, of course, is insurance. I think there's a lot that we can learn from Sanasa. So this is definitely one area that we want to collaborate on. And the second is the value chain financing. So this, I think, also is something that could be of great value to us.